A champion is bred from hard times, scarred mind standing on the ledge. The squad grind all time, victory in spite of opposition. Welcome to competition. You pick a side, I pick a side, they pick a side. Take a knee against abuse, they rather you die. Pushing through dark tunnels, trying to shed light. The fight is on the moment we enter the game of life. Get it right before the whole thing gone dead. Let's go ahead and take it there. Meet me on the edge.
Welcome to Edge of Sports, the TV show, only on the Real News Network. I'm Dave Zirin. This week we are honored to speak to someone who wears many hats. Radio host, professor, past president of the Native American Journalists Association, and a founder of the group Not in Our Honor that protests the racist cultural appropriation of the Kansas City football team. She was also a colleague of Lisa Lopez Galvan, the radio host killed at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade. Her name is Rhonda LeValdo. Let's speak to her now. Rhonda LeValdo, thank you so much for joining us here on Edge of Sports.
Yeah, no problem.
Start with a sober question that I really need to ask you, sober and somber. I mean, your colleague, as I mentioned in the introduction, was Lisa Lopez Galvan, the radio host killed at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade. Is there anything you would like to say about that or about the shooting that really shocked the country?
It's sad that would happen at such a thing that people were trying to just have a good time at. And so, it's awful that happened. And yeah, there's my continued prayers for her family that, her kids lost a mom. And unfortunately, that's, again, something that was supposed to be a happy event.
What has been the reaction, as you see it, of mayors, governor, local politicians? Are we seeing anything hopeful from the political class following the shootings, or are they just sort of shrugging their shoulders?
Missouri is very pro-gun, and so nothing, I don't think anything will come of it. They're very lax in their gun laws, so unfortunately, nothing really. But yeah, it's terrible.
We are talking about the Kansas City football team and what it means to the city. You spoke about the people filling up the streets for the parade. And this takes us to your organization that you helped found, Not in Our Honor. Can you speak about how Not in Our Honor came about and what its mission is?
So we were formed in 2005 when Washington was playing Kansas City. And we know there was previous protests done at Kansas City. We just felt we needed to continue it on. At the time, I was a college student. And so not realizing when I came here to go to school that I would have to face this type of craziness with the Kansas City football team, and just the amount of, I guess, being annoyed of fan behavior. So we felt we needed to take it on and start, making sure our voices were heard and continue to be heard. We continued on every year after that. We stepped it up after the George Floyd unfortunate murder of him, and then the BLM protests. We felt like we could get some more support, especially with the NFL trying to implement their racial injustice initiatives. Unfortunately, it's fallen on deaf ears. Doing the end racism hashtag in the end zone is kind of tone deaf to us. It's difficult that we continue to do this. It's 19 years later and still doing this. So we'll see what happens.
How do you respond to the argument, and I'm sure you've heard this a ton of times, for people who say, well, I understand why the name of the Washington team was so disgusting. It's a slur. Why are you against the name of the Kansas City team? Why is that something that needs to be protested?
Well, the cultural appropriation that happens with the team and how they were founded by H. Bartle, who helped start a fake native tribe called the Mikase. They continue to do Native American dances um, as a rite of passage and get these fake Indian names. And you know, I don't think people understand that those dances mean something. They're just not something you do. I know that they did one from my area where I'm from the Southwest, and those are prayer dances. You're not supposed to
Mm.
do those like just randomly. They mean something to us. And so I think they think they're just something crazy to do, but it has a different meaning. And so it to us it's really disrespectful and rude. It's not honoring us at all. And then, with that, that's how they got their names. Chief was from H.O. Bartle, who called himself chief of the Mikase. And, if you come down to it, we always explain that a chief was a burden to have. You took on your people, you took care of them. And I see Kansas City is not doing that. If you go to that area around the stadium, it is some of the poorest areas in
Mm.
Kansas City. And now they're trying to get, new stadiums. Like, well, what are you doing for those people that live there? Like they need help. Um, so yeah, it's a crazy situation. It wasn't a title, it was a burden, and they're using it as a title. Um, misusing what it stands for, but also just again that cultural appropriation that's seen all over the world, banging the drum, doing the chop, all that stuff, wearing headdresses. It's really sad that they're continuing these stereotypes. People believe in those stereotypes, it's like it's awful to have those put out again, like we give a stamp of approval for that and we don't.
Mm. Has it changed since 2005 in terms of the response you get from people, particularly white people in Kansas City? Like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, in Trumpist America, is it less people just not having thought about what it could mean to indigenous communities and more people almost taking pride in the racism itself?
Yeah, I mean, we do have some supporters that send us emails and that they're glad we're doing it. But yeah, there's a doubling down of people now because of the term woke, and I don't think they
Mm.
understand what that means. Cultural appropriation is not woke. That's something totally different. And so trying to explain that to people, as Native people, we weren't allowed to be Native. We were taken away from our parents. We were taken, sent to boarding schools. A lot of our people died. And it, it wasn't allowed for us to be Native. We weren't allowed to wear our clothes or to have our hair long or to even practice our ceremonies. But now it's okay for white people to do that. That doesn't make sense.
No. I live in the DC area, and there was success in bringing together Black Lives Matter organizations and people who are protesting the Washington name. And of course, the ultimate success of getting them to change the name with pressure on corporate sponsors. And it certainly helped that the owner of the team, Daniel Snyder, was just one of the most repulsive people in sports. Was your organization able to have success in terms of finding common cause with Black Lives Matter or with the movement against police violence after 2020?
Just a little bit. I think there's just such a love of the team and Patrick Mahomes, so we've tried to reach out to him, um, but with nothing, of course. And so it's difficult for people to buy into that. And I think they're just so not understanding the historical issues that go on with these types of things that Kansas City does, that they don't understand that, how it
Mhm.
affects us and affects our kids. So um yeah, it's a little bit more difficult.
I'm really interested in what you said before about the neighborhoods around the stadium. Would you describe Kansas City as being very economically polarized in terms of race and racism? Like, how does power operate in the city?
So like there's an area of town that's more, I guess, you always have in any city, you have a area that's the rich side, right? And the more economically disadvantaged side.
Hmm.
And so that area around the stadiums is pretty, it's not built up. It's not, there's no efforts to try and make it any better, but it's, I wish they would because it's kind of dangerous. And like um, when we go protest over there, we know we can't really be there at the night games because it's there's the road there is pretty busy and it's a little dangerous. At one point when we were protesting out there, somebody tried to cross the road and they were hit and they actually were killed just trying to go to the game. So
Wow.
we know not to be out there when it's dark because there's actually no like sidewalk or like even a crosswalk for people to get across safely. I believe it's almost 5 lanes of traffic.
Then there's NFL fans, alcohol, violence. I mean, yeah, it can get a little bit hairy at an NFL game, and I imagine if you're trying to project politics into the team that everybody's rallied around, you're taking a real risk.
Right.
Well, I mean, appreciate your bravery on these fronts. It's so important. You talked about starting the organization in 2005. What about the next generation of activists in or around Indigenous communities? Is this an issue that is connecting with them? Is this an issue that's in the front of their minds in terms of political action?
Oh, definitely. We've had students in the past and here where I live in Lawrence who have brought on the issue of there's a town in outside of Kansas City, a suburb called Shawnee Mission, and
Mm,
so they had the Shawnee Mission Indians, and so the students here would have to play them like in different sports, and they would have like somebody dressed up as an Indian princess and an Indian brave, and they would have them do the chop and crazy stuff to them. So there was actually a push from the students here in high school with the Native American Student Services program to get rid of that, imagery. And it actually went into a vote and they did finally get rid of it. So, which I was really surprised because I know they had come after me, some of the people who lived in Shawnee Mission for even speaking about it.
mm,
Um, but we've had a couple of schools in the outside area of Kansas City change their imagery because of that. And so now
wow.
there's a bigger push to get that done, especially in high schools, because there's so many high schools that have that native imagery. And here in the state of Kansas, there's a town called Liberal, of all places, Liberal, Kansas, and they're known as the Redskins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there a push to get that changed in liberal? Do you see
No,
success there? No.
they're in very southwest Kansas, which is a very conservative area.
The success though at the high school level, we have seen that around the country in
Yeah.
terms of cultural appropriation. Does that give you hope? And why do you think there's been able to have success there?
Well, I think push from the students themselves and understanding why this is wrong and, you know, their voices being heard about it. And I know like with Native American students that have to deal with it, um, it's something that they shouldn't have to deal with. They shouldn't have to deal with those types of things. And it's unfortunate, like here, some of our students they try to get rattled by people doing the chop at them. So it's kind of a weird situation. It's not just at the games, it's everywhere.
See, yeah, no, I remember an incident about that in Wisconsin after Trump was elected. It feels like the heat on a lot of these hyper racialized confrontations, particularly emanating from white students, feels more intense to me. But what also feels more intense to me is that you have this new generation that's not going to put up with the racist crap that previous generations were willing to put up with.
Right, definitely.
And that gives me hope. You've been really generous with your time. I was thinking last night, I wonder what Rhonda would say if she was granted a sit down with the Hunt family. If you had 45 minutes to sit across a table from them, what you'd say, what your strategy would be.
Well, if anything, we were part of a movie called Imagining the Indian. And
Yeah.
so I would suggest they watch that. If they didn't want to put up with actually meeting natives to understand, but to watch that film because it gives a historical perspective of why these things are wrong and lays out multiple reasons why and multiple images of why this is wrong. So if anything, I'd say watch that. But, I think that we've seen photographs of them in headdresses and,
Wow.
headdresses are earned. They're not just given out freely. And so I know that Mr. Hunt and his sons were part of Mikase as well. And just if anything, coming from that background of like again explaining that those dances aren't just things to do. Those are prayers. Those are sacred things and convey a meaning, not just for you to, dance around and feel good about yourself. That's not what that was for.
Mm. Just a side note, one of the producers, I believe, of Imagining the Indian is Kevin Blackistone, the
Mhm.
sports writer
Yeah.
and television commentator. Maybe he's a friend. Maybe reach out to Kevin. I'll ask him to send it to the Hunts or get it in Patrick Mahomes' hands. Do you think Mahomes is so powerful that if he as an individual said this name needs to change, it could change?
I think he could. We played the film actually here in the Kansas City area. And so, and when the film went online, so now it's available on Apple and Amazon, so anyone can watch it. We were going off of that strategy, saying, hey, if you don't understand this and you want it explained, watch this film. You
Mm,
could just rent it.
fantastic. But before you go, is there anything else that you'd like to add about the issue, about the work that you do, and about how people can support it?
Yeah, they can go to our Not in Our Honor website, and it's notinourhonor.com. And they can, look at the different things that we have there. Kansas City Indian Center also is part of our group. And so they've been there. They're going to be celebrating their 50th anniversary this weekend. And so we're having a celebration. So they've been there for 50 years, but Kansas City football does not support them.
Wow. Wow.
You have the main group that is supporting Native people in Kansas City. Why aren't they working with them? Because they know they're against,
Mhm.
what they do. So they provide different things for the community in Kansas City, and it's open to the public. So, if anybody wants to support what we do, we always ask to donate to them because it impacts the Native community in Kansas City.
Mm. Well, the movie is, can you say the name of it again? The Blackistone film, Imagining the Indian, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Imagining the
Imagining
Indian.
the that's the film that people need to see.
Yeah.
The organizations mentioned people should support. Go to the website without question. Rhonda LeValdo, thank you so much for joining us here on Edge of Sports.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching the Real News Network, where we lift up the voices, stories, and struggles that you care about most. And we need your help to keep doing this work, so please tap your screen now, subscribe, and donate to the Real News Network. Solidarity forever.